Bob McKenzie from TSN just came out with his draft rankings in the last few minutes since we started our show, and a bit of a surprise. You've been on this since the very beginning, the first person out there back at the midseason rankings to say, hey, you know what? I'm maybe not so sure about Shane Wright. Well, lo and behold, at basically the final draft rankings for Bob McKenzie, the guy in the number one spot is not Shane Wright, according to a poll of his scouts. It is Juraj Slafkovsky. Are you surprised at that?
I'm not. I think that this has been kind of the trend line over the last couple of weeks that Shane Wright's grip on the first overall pick has slipped significantly. He didn't really improve his stock in the playoffs. He didn't necessarily improve his stock at any point really throughout this season. So that was one of the biggest things with these the scouts that we talked to throughout the year is that we haven't seen the progression. We haven't seen it. It was an underwhelming season. Maybe he was the victim of expectations as opposed to just what it was. But the point production was fair. It was not great for this year. But then you look at Slafkovsky and you say, well, he didn't have great production in his leagues. Are we really going to make this pick based off of 2 tournaments and how he played in those tournaments? And I think the answer is yes. It sounds that way. I don't necessarily here's the thing about Bob's list is that he has a pool of scouts, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's got a Montreal Canadiens scout that has said that they are going to not pick Shane Wright. So anything is possible at this point. He did have one scout that had Cooley number 1. Obviously, that's who I've had number 1. I had Slafkovsky 3. He was no lower than 4th in the votes that Bob got. So this is just part of the trend that has happened throughout this season is that more players have kind of jumped up, not necessarily completely wrestled the number 1 designation away from Shane Wright, but it's just I think the confidence in Shane Wright as the best player to come out of this draft has really been rattled, and now we're seeing it with a poll of independent scouts that do this for a living that enough of them thought that Juraj Slafkovsky was the better prospect.